Hello to all students. In this video lecture, we are going to discuss facilitated diffusion. So first of all, we need to know what is a diffusion. Diffusion is a movement of molecules across a membrane or without a membrane from area of higher concentration to area of lower concentration. But first of all, you must remember that to do diffusion, there should be a concentration gradient. As you know that concentration gradient means there is a difference between two sides of any type of molecule. For example, if we take an example of a cell, this is a cell, this is the internal environment of the cell, which is cytoplasm, and this is a extracellular fluid, which is the external to the cell. So if the concentration of a certain molecule like water, glucose, amino acids, enzymes, hormones, etc. is equal on both sides, inside the cell and outside the cell, diffusion will not take place. So for diffusion, there should be a concentration gradient, the difference between amount of molecules in and out of the cell. So if there is a concentration gradient, movement of molecules will take place from area of higher concentration to area of lower concentration. Suppose oxygen is more inside the blood, inside the extracellular fluid, while inside the cell there is a less concentration of oxygen, then oxygen will move from area of higher concentration from extracellular fluid into the cytoplasm, into the cell where oxygen concentration is low. In the same way, CO2, which is carbon dioxide, produced as a result of respiration in mitochondria, the concentration of CO2 inside the cell is greater as compared to the outside of the cell, which is blood or extracellular fluid. Then CO2 will move from higher concentration of the cell from inside the cell to the outside of the cell. So this is a simple diffusion. But there are some molecules which are polar in nature, which cannot go across this lipid bilayer, because lipid bilayer has certain restriction. It does not allow to move molecules, some molecules to move across the cell membrane or plasma membrane. Suppose if you have water and take some water, put on your hand and rub it, but it's not going to be absorbed in your skin, because our skin is made up of cells, and cells are made up of plasma membrane, which are made up of lipid bilayer cholesterol. So water is a polar molecule, and the skin of is impermeable to water, and it is not allowing water to enter the membrane. But at the same time, take a drop of any kind of oil like olive oil, put on the skin and rub it with a finger. So you will see that your skin has absorbed the oil, because oil is a lipid and the skin is also made up of lipid molecules. So they both are identical molecule. So that is why the skin has absorbed the molecule. So in this way, our skin, our cell membrane take in some molecules and do not allow any other molecules to enter the cell. So the different molecules which are entering and exiting the cells, like carbohydrates, glucose, water, amino acids, enzymes, hormones, and certain other waste materials. And every type of cell has a different mechanism to move in and out of the cells, depending upon the nature and chemical nature and the charges present on the molecule. So there are certain molecules which have polar in nature, which cannot pass through lipid bilayer. So there are certain type of proteins inside the cell membrane which are known as carrier proteins. So these molecules can move across inside or outside of the cell with the help of these carrier proteins. So the one phenomena of this type of movement is known as facilitated diffusion. That is we are going to discuss today. So if we look at the facilitated diffusion, there is a protein molecules which are embedded inside the plasma membrane or inside the cell. So there are molecules which are going to move across the cell membrane. There is a higher concentration of the molecule outside the cell, and there is a lower concentration of the molecule inside the cell. Plasma membrane lipid bilayer is not allowing these molecules to move across it. So that is why these molecules have to go through these carrier protein molecules. So once these molecules come across carrier protein, these molecules bind with these carrier protein bind with molecule which has to be transported. There is a structural change in the protein molecule. After accepting this molecule, there is a structural change in the protein molecule, and the molecule has been transported from outside the cell into the inside the cell. So in this way, facilitated diffusion has been taking place. So what is facilitated diffusion? Diffusion is the movement of molecule from area of higher concentration to area of lower concentration. That is why it is called diffusion, and it is because it is facilitated by help of carrier protein from outside of the cell to inside, or inside of the cell to the outside. That is why this is known as facilitated diffusion. So I hope it makes sense, and so far today, that's all for today, and I'll see you in the next lecture. Until then, bye.